Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 28 has just been released, and we are now walking into what I feel like is the end times for the Boruto story. Not because it's ending anytime soon, but because I believe we're going to be seeing something very interesting and dark over these upcoming chapters. This is what I've been feeling throughout the latest chapters that have been released, and with what we see taking place, especially with Boruto finally using his karma, I feel like we are embarking into this journey, this dark place that we are heading to. But let's begin this chapter, and this chapter ultimately begins with the chapter cover. Obviously, we have Sumire as the chapter cover, and it says new power. This is referring to multiple things in this chapter, like Boruto getting his new sword and Boruto using the karma. But we see her essentially holding Boruto's new and upgraded sword that she is going to be giving Boruto in this chapter. This chapter cover is pretty cool looking to me. I'll give it a cool 6 to 7 out of 10. It's a pretty looking cover, but nothing extra crazy, and I'm sure a lot of Sumire fans probably enjoyed it. I enjoyed it too, but this is a little cool cover to me. But let's jump into the chapter, as what we do end up seeing is Inogen, and the side text is this: Inogen is training hard to acquire a new jutsu in preparation for crucial battle against the Senju. What is the ability of this new technique that will serve as the key to this operation? So it is exactly that. We start off with this chapter with Inogen, who is basically starting to master this ability. This ability is quite different to what a lot of people ended up suspecting, but it is still very cool. Essentially, what Inogen is able to do is creating this image that is almost a map of Konoha, or at least the extent of the radius of his entire ability. One thing that is very interesting to me is the fact that this is actually taking place in Kashin Koji's hideout, which we have learned to be located in the Land of Wind. So for this to be taking place there, and for Inogen to be able to have a radius of Konoha from such a far distance, it comes to highlight just how strong Inogen is, especially in comparison to people like her mother around this age, as this is definitely not a feat that she would be able to perform. And throughout this chapter, we see Inogen, who is connecting Kashin Koji Shikadai to everybody in the Leaf who is going to be working in this operation. And this is done at such a far distance, showcasing just how strong Inogen really is, or just how much he has mastered this ability. But we end up seeing Boruto and Kashin Koji, who end up praising Inogen for this. But Inogen doesn't really respect the fact that Boruto is complimenting him. He is saying that I'm only doing this for Himawari and Konoha's sake. I'm not doing this at all for you. And Boruto says, I don't accept you either. And if you do end up making Himawari cry, he will shave this stupid haircut of his. And this is right. I'm in complete agreement with Boruto. This haircut has to go ASAP, immediately. And this is what Boruto would do to Inogen if Himawari ends up dying, or if Himawari ends up crying due to Inogen. This is what Inogen will look like bald. So I really hope that Inogen doesn't want this to happen, because if this is how he turns out to look like, he will not have Himawari for too long. I think it's gonna be dead after she sees this haircut. But we end up seeing Boruto, who ends up leaving. Then we end up going to a conversation between the interrogation group, which Sai is included. They are saying that Konohamaru is essentially done, and now they're going to move on to discuss somebody else. But what is very interesting about this is Sai is suspecting that somebody has made contact with Konohamaru, and this is very important, as he does end up asking the sensory division if there were any official or unofficial records that were taking place. But no, there was nothing that actually happened, because in this case it was Inogen. But now we have somebody who is actually wary, quite wary at that, of some secret line, some secret communication taking place. And Sai, somebody who worked as an envoy spy in the past, he is definitely going to be a person who could end up figuring out just what is going on, which will definitely at that point remove Shikamaru as Hokage. But then we end up going to Boruto, and Boruto, who has just acquired his new sword. These are the little differences. This is a little difference between Boruto's old sword and his new one. We can see how much longer it actually is. But we have Sumire who lets Boruto know that this is ready. She basically tells Boruto that the sword has been completely redesigned, but the helm of the sword, the bottom part where Boruto is grabbing, has remained the same. So that's why in this sneak peek, we couldn't really tell the difference because we only saw the handle of Boruto's sword. But what we do end up learning are the little specs of this sword. The fact that it allows Boruto to essentially not have to worry about pouring the right amount of chakra into it. The blade already takes care of it. But something that's also very important that we do end up learning is the fact that Boruto, Sumire, and Sasuke are the only people who are going to be registered in that sword. And if anybody else decides to touch it, then the sword is basically going to drain their chakra, which is quite important, as in the past, we have somebody like Jiro who did end up touching that sword. But something that is very important that was also basically mentioned by people in the community is the fact that Hidari has the exact chakra signal as Sasuke Uchiha, which is why when we saw him actually come into the village, the first thing people said is Sasuke Uchiha has returned, but upon looking at him, they realized that it wasn't actually Sasuke. So due to Sasuke and Hidari's chakra signal being the same, this is the potential. Maybe it is foreshadowing the fact that in the future, we could have Hidari who ends up taking Boruto's sword to fight, and nothing bad will end up happening. But to me, the very interesting thing that we do see end up being revealed is quite important for Boruto, and they're basically hiding from us, is the fact that Boruto has this special material that has been added to his sword, which Sumire does not necessarily describe to the full extent, but that's all we pretty much end up learning about the sword. Then we end up going to a conversation between Shikadai and Shikamaru. And something I truly have to praise Ikimoto on is developing these other characters. Ikimoto, maybe this is a displeasure to some other people, but we don't see the rest of the Konoha 11 that we can call for the Boruto series that we saw in the anime. We don't see all those various different characters. Ikimoto has picked these characters as Team 10, Team 7, and we have Kawaki and those other people like Sumire who are going to be involved in the manga. I don't know what's going to happen to the other ones. Maybe they're going to be featured when it comes to useless things, or if there is something quite big that happens in the village. But these are the people in which I believe that we're truly going to see real development for. These are the actual people that are going to matter. And this is why we're seeing that they're actually involved. This is not the first time. The other time we saw them being involved dealt with Jura coming into the village, the first part of the Cloudlands attack. And when anything happens in the village, we're basically seeing that they are quite involved. And I'm quite happy with this decision from Ikimoto. Let's not have these random characters that mean nothing and are just gonna have random exposition be in the manga and waste panels. Those who are going to be in the manga, those who are going to be focusing on, they are the people who are actually going to be developed. And that's what we're seeing being developed here. The fact that we're seeing this new attitude that everybody has due to the dire circumstances. We will do whatever is necessary for the village. And this is a utilitarian concept that has been expanded to almost all of these new gen characters. The fact we see this with Energen, we see this with Shikadai, and we see this with everybody who is working with Boruto. They may not necessarily agree, obviously due to omnipotence and the beliefs that they currently have, but they're going to do what is necessary to protect their loved ones and to protect the leaf. And this just shows another theme in the story. Just how far are you willing to go for your loved ones? And we're seeing every single character showcase just how far they're willing to do so. As Shikadai knows that even if he decides not to take this mission, as he hasn't necessarily been ordered yet by Shikamaru, he knows that his friends are not going to be sitting around and letting people like Himawari get hurt. So they're definitely going to fight. And because his loved ones are fighting and he doesn't want them to get hurt, he is going to put his life on the line to ensure that it doesn't happen, to ensure that deaths do not take place. And that's the basic gist of their entire conversation. And now we end up going back to diving on deeper into the singularity of fates, as we have Kashin Koji and Energen who have this discussion. I like the fact that this is being brought up a lot better, and we see clear examples of this that Ikimoto is showing to us. But just the fact of knowing the future, it changes the way you think, it changes the way you act. This is pointed to Inogen when it is brought up, when he brings up why he's not spreading this information to everybody. The fact of you learning about the future has already changed what you will do in that said future. Inogen knew that he was going to die versus Jira, would he still have pressed Jira as hard, leading to Himawari getting her awakening. And a similar concept is with Sarada. These reasons is why Kashin Koji must ensure that he doesn't tell too many people about the future, as it is going to become even more and more unpredictable. And with the amount of people who are working with Boruto, he has already started to change the future due to the amount of singularities of fate who are being popped up and due to knowing about the future. There is a line between the benefits and the drawbacks of this ability, and we're getting closer and closer to that fine line being quite invisible for us to tell, where we don't necessarily know how the future is going to go. But Kashin Koji is praying that each and every one of his actions came with the best reasoning and the best intentions to truly end up leading towards a positive future. And that's what is being explained to Inogen, and Inogen really starts to grasp why Kashin Koji can't just tell everybody about what is taking place. But now we end up having Inogen who links everybody who is going to take place in this battle. And not only do we learn more about Inogen's ability, we do end up learning about those people who are going to be working all together, even with Boruto, to end up defeating Mamushi, who is just about to lay his attack. As we do end up seeing that Damon, Eida, Sarada, Sumire, Boruto, Kawaki, Team 10, they are all going to be involved in this battle in some way, shape, or form. And we have Damon, who is going to be taking on that battle too. And Damon is basically telling Eida that he's not going to let anything happen to her. But with what Kashin Koji revealed, with a Eida who ended up being turned into a tree, and a Himawari who was crying, perceived to potentially be dead, it's getting a little bit scary for Damon and his #1 title, as it could be robbed in this chapter. And that's going to be very interesting to see take place. But Inogen's ability is almost like a mini-map. That's the way I look at it. You can see where other people are in the map due to the vibrations that you emit. Everybody emits a vibration or frequency, and using that vibration or frequency, even if you are turning off your chakra signal, Inogen is able to sense you and map out exactly where you are given the radius of Konoha for this battle. And that's how he's going to be able to tell exactly where the Mamushi clones are and relay the information necessary to those who are closest. Everybody who is going to be fighting alongside Boruto and looking to defeat Mamushi, those people who I mentioned, they are going to act as receivers. Due to the fact that they are there, they're going to be receivers that receive said information on Mamushi's vibrations. So everybody is going to be laid out in their specific sectors. We see that Team 10 is one group. We see that Sarada is going to be in the location D. We see Kawaki is going to play a supportive role. And we see these other locations that everybody is going to end up going to, and them acting as receivers. The Mamushi clones that are closest to them are going to emit vibrations that is going to allow the receivers to transmit the information to Inogen on where exactly they are, allowing Inogen to have a good map of where exactly Mamushi's clones end up being. And that is what we end up seeing, and at that one moment we see that one of the Mamushi clones end up attacking. They end up attacking, and thus we have Boruto who starts to go to that direction to end up fighting against the clone. Boruto is rushing towards that direction, where we see Mamushi, who is talking with one of the random Konoha citizens. They are basically letting him know that, shoot, I'm looking for Eida too. Like, if you end up finding out where Eida is, you let me know. But as they're about to leave, they see this weird old guy with this spandex. I don't know what outfit this is. I didn't know that Mamushi's cheeks were actually visible at a side angle. But after realizing and seeing this disturbing image of Mamushi, they're like, yo, why is this old guy, this pervy old guy looking for Eida? I know exactly what he's trying to do. So they're trying to get more information out of Mamushi, and one of the other clones is like, okay, you can kill him or just leave because they're gonna serve no purpose. One thing that I actually kind of liked about Mamushi is like, he's like, no, thank you, I appreciate it, brother. I'm gonna keep it stepping. I'm gonna go get more information. And he doesn't actually try and kill them. But we see Boruto, who ends up popping in immediately. and he ends up catching that clone off guard and completely destroying it. And it is then that we see the one clone that was chilling, he is capable of spawning in 3 other clones who end up fighting against Boruto. Boruto withstands one of their attacks, and then we see the others that are essentially jumping him. So this is actually a very broken ability, and a lot of people could say that, oh, Boruto is able to slash them quite easily, their durability is terrible, but you have to keep in mind that these are clones, and although they are of a similar strength, what we do end up seeing is the whole tactic is you're gonna get jumped, and it is actually pretty scary to see because they can do this infinitely. They can keep spawning in more and more clones, so it is really hard for you to fight them by yourself. And we see that Boruto is struggling a little bit when it comes to that piece, as he is being bumped by those other clones and being pushed around due to him simply being jumped. And this is where one of the other clones ends up using fire style. So this is another ability that we see that the Mamushi clones have. They can use some level of fire style. The other clone is like, yo, chill, you're gonna end up burning one of the villages and he's gonna get shooed out by Jiro. But Boruto, in the blazing fire, ends up using his karma. He uses his karma to absorb this said fire, and almost similar to Ishiki when he ended up reawakening in his body, we see Boruto come out with his karma, and he notes how disgusting it feels and irritating it feels for him to be using this ability. And we have the Mamushi clones that are well aware of what this is, the karma, and the Ten-Tails must be used to this. And due to the simple fact that Boruto is Otsutsuki, they might be like, yo, hold on, I might have to eat you first. So they might have that little feeling. But jokes aside, this is where the chapter ends off. But what we do end up learning about Boruto and his karma is this simple note that we see here. The power you have gained is a double-edged sword. Give up everything, devote your life, and burn your very soul to defeat the Senju. And this is where the chapter ends off, and we're seeing this point that Boruto is burning through his self, burning to everything that he deems to be his own to end up defeating the Senju. And this has been a mindset that Boruto has had from the very beginning. So this is where the chapter ends off. This chapter is peak, but it makes me really wonder what is going to happen next chapter. Just how strong is Boruto going to be? But I'm really scared due to the simple way that we're seeing this battle take place. Mamushi clones are able to just keep on spawning and spawning. They're gonna tire you out. No matter how strong you believe them to be, to me, they are quite strong physically. Maybe they end up dying quite quick or they end up dissipating quite quick due to the simple fact that they are still clones. But in terms of strength, they have that strength, but maybe not the highest durability. So I personally believe that Mamushi himself is going to have a higher durability than the other clones, but the strength of the other clones are the same as Mamushi all around. This is why Mamushi can actually attack Boruto, and Boruto actually feels it. Boruto is actually pushed back, as we saw. I really like that angle of Boruto falling to the ground. But this is what we end up seeing from this chapter. This chapter is looking pretty good. I'd rate this a cool 8.5 out of 10, just simply due to the fact that I know that the next chapter is going to be that 10 out of 10. I know that the next chapter is going to be absolutely peak. We are in the dark times. We see this of Himawari potentially dying in this battle, and we also see this of Eida being turned into a tree. Things are looking dark, but how will Boruto really do? I want you guys to let me know what exactly you guys think. And one point I almost forgot to mention is Kawaki. He just seemed to be coming out of an operation, and after that he started wearing his clothes. Do you think that he also got upgraded? Because the new power can not only just be referring to Boruto and his karma and sword, but the new power could also be referring to Kawaki himself. So what do you guys think about Kawaki potentially getting another upgrade? Let me know all your thoughts, comments, and concerns in the comment section below. It's been your boy Dynasty, and I'm out, bruh.